Cannot. Okay. Just a quick question. I definitely much older than most of you all. No way I got this reference or not. How many of you learn about D&D from a TV show, Stranger Things, Community, and that's how you got curiosity? Okay. Um, by watching like Acquisitions Inc. or Critical Role, then okay, that only seems to be only a small part. What about the rest? Your friends playing? Huh? Word of mouth. All right, computer games. But what about computer games make you want to try it?
Seems cool.
Okay. Okay, anyway, this reference, Greendale is Greendale is skills. Sorry, the school in community, and that they have two D&D episodes that are quite fun. You should kind of watch it. Today, I'm going to talk about how I DM. Again, I'm not that experienced at DM. I just have personal preferences. And then also I'll talk a bit about Adventures League. I think there are quite a lot of questions about Adventures League and what role it does. I think it's a good program, but it has also some things about it that should be just out in the open. All right. So my own D&D history, I started about Sec 2, Sec 3, and this was the original box set, long 80s. Actually, we didn't play that much D&D. It was a lot of reading and all. That time also there was this satanic, yeah, only audio I'm afraid. Satanic movement against anything that was cool, rock music, every style, so D&T as well. These are the Jack Chick comics, which I think you can download online and read them and see how the religious Christianity tried to use D&D as a kind of like a whacking tool. There was a TV movie with Tom Hanks called Mazes and Monsters as well, about an incident where some guy got lost, committed suicide, and they tried to blame it on D&D. So this was how I started. Third edition came out, and then third edition, one big major change was that it became an open game system, just a lot like open source software. A lot of people wrote for it. There was probably a new source book every month, and that led to a lot of problems as well. It influenced a lot of design decisions for 5th edition as we do now. I followed the hobby, I bought a lot of books, but I never really played. 4th edition came out. 4th edition was kind of like a MMO. It tried to be a tabletop version of World of Warcraft. A lot of people hate it, and it didn't live very long. They took a long time doing the next version of D&D. At first they called D&D Next. Based on the feedback, players wanted a bit more simplicity, not so much customization. So then 5th edition came out. I returned to play it. And 2-3 years ago. So the starter set, I think a lot of you might contact. After playing it, I think I rediscovered my love for D&D again. I run a lot of one-shots for 5th edition. I get players from the meetup, a lot of new players. They want to know what the game is about. And so these one-shots are kind of like an intro to the game. And it doesn't always work out. Some players think that, that's not their thing. But the one-shot has a bit of everything: tactical combat, role-playing, puzzle solving. It's a short, mini kind of save the city adventure that I completed in 3-4 hours. I use a 13H scenario. 13H scenario is it's kind of like a version of D&D. Similar and with some added elements. 5th edition, I guess, this is one of my characters. It's a Myconid druid. It's called Fun Guy. I'm sure Shanghai will approve. Yeah, what else could it be called?
Does he sit on a toadstool?
Yeah, once in a while. red cap. Okay, so we'll talk about DMing. And I think Mick has covered most of the points. So primarily, your DM is a referee and a storyteller. But you also need to be kind of like a psychologist, career counselor, a cat herder, a location scouter, and all that. Cat herding, if you ever DM, you know, getting players together is always an issue. I think at one game, we were supposed to play in April, and then it's been delayed to August, for example, because people are out of the country, busy, and it's very hectic for me and everyone. Okay, but DMing requires a lot of skills, and yeah, these two are the most important, but I think a lot of other things come into play, improvisation, and all that. To me, DMing is mainly about collaborative storytelling. You're trying to come together and tell a story together. And the DM, the players, and the dice do this. This is not a story that's created by a DM alone. And sometimes you have to let the story go where the players want it to go and not have this fixed idea of what you want the story to be. So for me, like I said, I'm a bit of a lazy DM, so I try to get the players to do the work. So you get your players to help with the narrative. Always address them by the character name. Don't call them by their real names when you're on the table. Ask them to describe combat moves, particularly critical hits, fumbles, kills. I know Matt Mercer does all this, or how do you want to do this, but I think you can do it more often. Get them into the flow of the game, and they'll have to describe what's happening. Don't I roll an attack roll. What can you do better? I try to stab it with my daggers below its neck or something like that. Let them describe and help with the narrative. Whenever there are things that require social interaction, don't let them just say, I'm going to roll a performance check. What are you going to perform? Are you going to sing? Are you going to play a lute? Are you going to try to tell a bad joke? Be a troll? Sit on the table? Let them into the game, and then they'll start to give back to you, and you can bounce ideas off them. Okay, go sit on the table and get everyone's attention. Stand on the table and get everyone's attention. So what happens next? You react to that. I think the worst thing you can do is letting the game become a series of skill checks. And that, if you want to do that, you must be playing a tactical board game or something else. So remember, try to get the role play flowing. And I think, especially for new players, it's not easy, but look at them, tell them what is your player doing exactly, and don't just tell me persuade, deceive. Tell me exactly how he's going to deceive or persuade, etc. Some things like looking for traps and stealthing, I don't make a big deal about that, but anything that's social interaction, you should be asking our players to describe it exactly. Again, you as a DM now need to react to this. So learn to roll with the player's description and try to work this into your world. You're doing a kind of group improvisation thing. So once your player throws a threat, you need to pick up the threat and try to roll with it. This is one of the big things, and I have to say, the other stuff is more, ask your players to prepare. Like, prepare cheat sheets with their abilities. Your monk, what does your way of shadows or way of open fist or four elements do? You should have a printout or Evernote or something with all these details. So you can refer to it quickly. Ask them to prepare. Of course, you're doing something for level 1 players or new players, it's okay. The DM can try to help to prepare. Spell cards or spell book. For my characters, I store everything in Evernote and then call it up so I can refer to it without going to flip through the book on and on. Okay, another system to get your players into the game is using montages and interludes, which I learned from 13H and another system called Savage World. So, science, you want your players to get them into the game again, help with the narrative. Okay, Shao, what's your history with this town? Please describe what have you done and what you accomplished here. So, okay, for my 13H one shot, the scene starts off with these characters. They've been protecting this town for the past week. There's been under assault by orcs. So I asked them, how has your character been protecting the town for this past 1 week? What's your character been doing? Some of them, of course, we described they've been on the front lines fighting. The clerics might say they've been healing. The bards playing songs or just hanging out in the bar and picking pockets and so on. So these things will help fill up the character, and the player realizes that he's playing a character and the story is tied into the campaign. And so science for long combat scenes, okay, most of the time, I think a session, probably 2 or 3 combat scenes is sufficient. And sometimes you just want to speed things along. I say, okay, there are a whole bunch of skeletons between you and the tower you want to get to. I don't bother to play out combat. Maybe I do 1 skill check, roll, and then to see how successful you are. But otherwise, I just say, describe how you fought your way to the tower. And then skip a lot, player against, fills in the narrative. Makes it easy for everyone. I mean, to keep the pace going and so on. Another system is, in Savage Worlds, you don't quite know, not sure how, you want the scene to have a bit more randomness. You have a pack of cards ready. You deal what's on the card. The suit we demand, you designate how the story flows. Diamonds, desire, clubs, tragedy or violence. Spades, victory. Hearts, love, for example. After they do this story, provide them a reward, inspiration, XP, consumable magic item, for example. So try to reward your players for this effort. I think this is obviously it's more for homebrews rather than Adventures League, but another thing to think about is to get your players to create their own relationships with other characters. As in, it need not be session 0 or when characters, or session 0 is when you come together and then you create your characters, tying their backstory and all that. If you're new players, they might not be very comfortable with it, but maybe you can wait until they're 3rd level, 5th level. Okay, so tell me the NPC that your character would have a positive relationship with, negative relationship, or kind of like a neutral relationship. So it might be, so the character himself creates this bunch of NPCs that you can start bringing into your world. For example, Shaohan's character, you had this, Turtle Master, Crab Master, Cook, for example, and then or whoever the enemies are. It can be it need not be an NPC. They're free to create some god or something that they are adversarial with, and then you kind of know what your characters are looking for, and then bring them into the game. Just a reminder, but not every character created by your player characters will use, of course. And if they do come into the game, make sure they don't overshadow the player characters. Ultimately, the game really is about the PCs. They should not be pushed to the side. The NPCs should not be used ex machina to solve the problems that the characters are facing. All right, some stuff again for during the game. I have some sessions where the players help track initiative. Useful if you have a whiteboard at home or one of those Daiso whiteboards. Write down initiative. Because as DM, just before combat, you have a lot of flipping around and all that. Let our players remember what conditions they're suffering from, because it's a lot to remember for a DM. Charm, fatigue, maybe have a list there. I mean, it's on the other side of the DM screen and they can refer to it so that they remember. Get them to bring food and drink. Yep. And if you're very good, some of them can do the cat herding, as in gathering the group together. because I know this is one of the most time-consuming things, getting them to come together and all that. Okay, post-game. If you can, if you're in a long campaign, you think, oh, I put in so much effort. So players, Simon, can you do a report? Can you write it up? Doesn't have to be a real nice story, 3,000 pages. Just a few key points or just a short one-pager. Everybody can refer to, and by the end of the campaign, at least you have some kind of history of this, how this campaign went down. You need to, of course, help supply the necessary information. And again, give the reward, inspiration, bonus XP, and so on. So these are just some things that help bring your players into the game, help make your job a little easier. Anything that makes the DM job easier because it's such a big task, I'm all for. Okay, so but ultimately DMing is a big responsibility, but don't let that stop you. When I started out, I ran some of the adventures from Adventures League. I kept worried that I would go off track. I kept limiting my players. After a while, you become more comfortable. You improvise better. You know what your players are looking for, and you start to roll with it more. Generally, I would consider pacing more important than sticking to the rules, particularly if there's an obscure rule like about, say, can a monk move in between his extra attacks and so on. I'll just say, okay, do what you want. I'll allow it. Let's move on. Let's not spend 5 minutes flipping through a book trying to find this obscure rule. And making mistakes, like I say, is part of DMing, and it's fine. Main thing is the narration to me, the story that's coming out. The rules are a framework that you can play with. So this is basically what I wanted to say for this part, for the letting your players do some of the work. Any questions about this part first before I go into Adventures League? Okay. The other thing, I guess, is the miniatures versus theater of the mind thing. I think it's going to be your personal preference about what you want to do. Again, I kind of agree, it's starting players, and also easier for DMs for starting to visualize, to know where everybody is, and that saves quite a bit of time and effort. Okay, I'm going to talk about Adventures League. A lot of previous information pertain to homebrews and campaigns. So Adventures League has issues, but I think it's still a great program for D&D and for DMing. So this is the minimum for Adventures League. You can play anywhere. Player's Handbook or the D&D basic rules, which actually can be downloaded for free. The D&D Adventures League Player's Guide and the Dungeon Master's Guide, which are available from dmsguild.com. An official D&D Adventures League module, dice, and then 3 to 7 players. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention, the more players, the more downtime. And if you're starting out, I recommend capping it at 5. 6, 7, people are going to wait, they're going to be on their handphones, and I guess as a new DM, you find very pig-tick, you're very discouraged when people are not paying attention. So if you're starting out, try to keep it between 3 to 5 players. I would say 6 and 7 is not really ideal, and more than that is really, really bad most of the time. And I know Shao can do, I cannot do. And I admit it, I cannot do 7 players. Adventures League, one of the rules of character creation is that you can only use the Player's Handbook and one of the supplements from Wizards of the Coast. So you can use Player's Handbook and Volos, etc., and all of this. So technically, you cannot create a Cobalt Eldritch Knight who can cast Green Flame Blade because they're from different source books. It's one of the big limitations of Adventures League, which a lot of people are pissed about. But I can see why Wizards of the Coast did that. They're preventing the power creep that was very evident in 3rd edition. And power creep is that for each book released, the players get more powerful and more powerful. There are 4 tiers for Adventures League. level 1 to 4. In between level 1 to 4, you can change your character any way you like. New class, new race, whatever. Once you reach tier 2, level 5 to 10, your character should be fixed. Tier 3, level 16, tier 4, 17 to 20. So I think most of the games here are tier 1 so far. We should be starting tier 2 next month. So what are the issues with Adventures League? Let's be upfront with them. Adventures League is not a homebrew. It's very much catered to a kind of drop-in, drop-out system. So there's a kind of like, you go from this adventure to this adventure. The villains from this adventure, they survive, don't go over. They rarely do unless you use the same bunch of modules from one adventure, one season of the adventures. So it feels a bit disjointed. It feels a bit like your characters are just mercenaries going between session to session, town to town, jumping about. Another effect is that the characters don't seem to have an effect on the game world. Okay, you slay this dragon, but overall, there's no overall impact. It doesn't affect the next session or things down the road. Right now, also, it's based on an order system. We trust that the players, the DMs, will just enter their adventures, and that's how you level up and so on. So some people take advantage. But overall, I still think it's a good program. One thing is your characters go from one table to anywhere in the world. Like Mixed, Portugal, he can bring his characters here and play. And of course, another big good thing is that DMs will get to play. I think it's quite important that DMs get to play to see the game from the other side. The adventures, at least, are self-contained. You complete them in 1 or 2 sessions. And there's less need of herding. Because, okay, I post the event there, the players will find the game instead of the DM needing to round out the players each time and bring them together. And, you know, your Gorbak, the half-orc fighter, 13 level, campaign stops, then there's the end of for Gorbak, unless another DM permits him to play. But for Adventures League, your characters can go on and on and on. They can jump from one adventure module to another, so they're continuous. It's much more satisfying. I'm sure all of you create characters, you put a lot of effort, time into them, and a lot of campaigns, I think, just die. I think most that happens a lot, but at least for Adventures League, the characters will always be there. Unless, of course, Wizards of Coast changes the system. And there's some tracking and some equalness, at least, to how the characters, what items they get, and the XP they get. The magic items for Adventures League modules aren't that generous, which is good. So there's some way to track them. I think it's sometimes there are big sessions where multiple tables and all that. So again, we have kind of like your log sheet should track how your character got to this space, and then it'd be fair to allow your character to play at this table, for example. There's some degree of fairness in there, instead of just bringing a 5th level character with like say plus 3 fate armor that we don't know where he got it from, and so on. So going on to why DM for Adventures League. Okay, DMing, first you need to want to DM. If you're not going to want to DM, it's okay, just play. There are DM rewards for DMing. You find that at the end of all the modules that Mick talked about, that you find in the Adventures League. And sometimes you get the double rewards for DM Quest of the Week, for example. And there are a lot of other rewards that are similar to achievements. Actually, just being here, you all get some reward, at least 100 XP, I guess, for one character. You just downloading the DM kit from DM's Guild gives you another reward, for example. So, yes, those are the more game rewards. But ultimately, I hope you go on DM for fun, for building the game, building the community of players and so on. So, again, you want to start and figure out how to DM for DM's Adventures League, please download the Adventures League DM's pack from dmsguild.com, which will give you some advice, and also the achievements that you can unlock and what rewards there are. I'm not very. It depends. A lot of us, I guess, we DM, but we don't like tick off for everything. Then that's fine. The tracking the rewards is up to you, but there are rewards in game and outside the game as well. So getting started, I think Mick already said Lost Mines is a great kit to start with. All the official modules, Storm King's Thunder, Heart of the Dragon Queen, are Adventures League legal as well. Just that the reward system is a bit more complex. So so far there are 6 seasons, and you can take any module from any of the seasons and run them. Tyranny of Dragons, the first season, Out of Abyss. The first module for each season is made out of 5 mini encounters, mini adventures, and those are quite good for teaching for your first session to DM. Tyranny of Dragons, as Mick mentioned, Defiance and Plan. I think the first scenario is very good because it's just a lot of intrigue, role playing, and all that. Some of the modules, some of the scenarios also have combat maps, which I think are more tactical and also interesting. Most of them have a different emphasis. Some are more role play, some are a bit more tactical combat, some are just mini, very short 4 or 5 room dungeon crawls and so on. So as you play them, as you DM them, you're starting to get the hang of one aspect of DMing at a time, and that makes it quite easy for you. The adventures are 4 or 5 pages each. If you're a homebrew DM, you don't want to run Adventures League, there's still really good material in some of them that you can take, like the battle maps, some of the scenario ideas, and so on. In Volo's Wake is another module with 6 mini campaigns. It's actually tied into Phandelver. So if you're running Phandelver, you can loot this for ideas as well. Okay, moving on from D&D. If you want to improve your DMing, I think these 2 systems are some of the best. They're both diceless, and they help you improve your narration. Dread is a game, it's an RPG that's played with Jenga blocks, no dice. Jenga blocks. You can find it being played by Geek and Sundry on YouTube. It's not perfect because once the Jenga block falls, there's a lot of the tension is kind of released from the game, and it's either you pull or you fail. So, but it's great for storytelling. For world building, I recommend Microscope. Microscope is very hard to explain, but it's basically the players kind of try to build a world with certain conditions in place, and then they choose a scene from, say, a certain timeline, and then they will role play the scene, acting as various personas in that scene. Again, this removes the dice from the game, and it just helps to make you think about role playing, the improvisation part of RPGs and so on. So, okay. So basically the summary of what I talked today is getting our players involved in the game, helping reluctant new players start off. You're DMing for Adventures Guild, then people who come in. And okay, I have to admit that Adventures League is not always the best intro for new players. At times I think they're a bit lost, especially if you're starting from first level and everybody's like 3rd or 4th level. So it's either imbalance or they feel a bit left out of the story. But I think, of course, it's still better than not playing at all. And so, like I said, D&D RPGs is storytelling apprenticeship. The more you do of it, the better you get at DMing. So, final words. Why is this man with funny hat speaking his sign language, or they're only goblins? Just before a fireball and all that. All right. That's pretty much. Do you want to do a Q&A now, or you after? Okay, I'll just do a short Q&A now. Any questions about Adventurers Guild or? Yep.
In the first four levels, they can switch characters, etc., right?
They can change. Yep.
They can change. So how does that work? Like, do you introduce a new character in the game to the next session, or like just carry on?
You can totally redesign a new character into the game, new name, new race, whatever, for levels 1 to 4 for Adventurers League.
But how do you then, like, if it's the next session with the same sort of people, do you just like, do you recommend just keeping the, assuming that history is already there, or like reintroducing a character?
I think when you start off, for most AR modules, most DMs will try to go around the table and ask you to reintroduce your character. So the character is assumed to be a new, totally new persona, rather than have any ties to the old character.
But just transmute give them a facelift and then transmute the XP lah.
XP, gold, rewards, and all that.
And then you draw a transmutation circle. You put them in the center with a bit of salt and water and whatever. Then you get a dog and then yeah. That's how you get new characters. Or you put their players shoot them also. Then you got new players.
I think they assume that AL, a lot of new players, and often you're given a pre-generated character to use. So you play once or twice, you're more comfortable with coming out your new character, so be it. That's why you allow you to go in and then change after a few sessions. Any other characters? Yep.
When you say PHB +1, right, is it limited to the player himself, or is it like agreed upon the table? Like, if play a goblin and another player wants to play like a storm sorcerer.
Yeah, it's fine. No, that's a character creation rules. So legally, science of course we're a bit loose and we can't remember where every rule comes from. You're supposed to just use the player's handbook and one of the supplements.
So the DM is to keep track of whatever choices the players make?
Again, it's more honor system. But again, you might be called by other players who say, oh, this is not PHB +1. And then they might complain to the DM, blah, blah, blah. And so let's say in the scenario that, okay, you had this adventure that you've been playing, this character you've been playing, and then we want to bring it to, say, Gen Con or one of the big conventions. The GMs might ask to look through your character sheet, and then they ask, this character is not legal. So all the effort wasted, or you bring it online, you want to play a game of Fantasy Grounds or Roll20, you might get called out on it. So yeah, there's an audit check basically. Again, depends on the other players, depends on the DM. But like I said, these are the rules that Wizards wanted to put in so that there's not too much power creep for D&D and Adventurers League.
Then on the other side of the coin, can you as a DM limit whatever source books that the players can use for your table?
For Adventurers League, not. You need to kind of
justify that.
Okay.
depends. I think you still need to allow PHB +1. I don't think anything is so game breaking that you should disallow the game anything from those source books.
I'm gonna add on to that. So, for example, I think one of the very cool races that came up along the way is Asima. So Asima is the one with wings and whatever that can fly. So for me to, sometimes you can take advantage of that in combat. What I do is to have ground rules for why you can't fly in combat, or like certain situations where you can fly. Okay, it needs to be an open area. I need to have a runway. I need to, I can do it once a day, else I get tired. I need my protein bar to replenish. Your armor is so heavy, so you actually use it for navigation more than combat. But you have to justify. It has to make sense. Like I said earlier, logical thinking. Why you can or cannot use it. And the players, well, I think most players who do that, they're a bit sensible lah. That they will, okay, I understand, and so you make that compromise between you and the players, what they can and cannot do. Of course, you want to also, this is another thing lah. Very good encounters would have them, give them the ability to use that like Asima. We're inside a thick forest. You can get the Asima to fly above and give you tracking and stuff like that. So don't just restrict them, because an Asima who cannot fly is a shit character. Like, honestly speaking, if you look at the character stats, it is the most vanilla thing, except we can fly. That's it. Yeah, it's a really very bad. Okay.
Okay, anything else? Yep.
You mentioned rewarding players with inspiration, right?
Yep.
So I'm very new to this one. So far I've not seen any DM reward. I mean, do you have any stories to tell, like where do you actually reward inspiration?
Oh man, so very.
I think when the player executes something creative, when they really go into the narrative, then I might like they find a new way to scam the target, their mark, for example. That's creative. Then yeah, I might reward them with inspiration. Inspiration under the DMG is given for creative moments or storytelling. And off the top of my head, I can't think of any, but I think Shao.
There's two things you can do by the rules. Okay, one thing is that when a player role plays their quirk, right, or their flaw,
Yeah.
so you know when you've got the background generation, you roll your D8 and this is my quirk or whatever. So if someone role plays their flaw or their ideal, given a situation where it's bad for them, but it makes a cooler story, feel free to give it to them. But it requires the DM to be a bit self-reflexive, because I have DMs who do not give inspiration because they treat it as a resource. So if you're organizing metaphor as inspiration as a resource, right, you want to be kind of stingy. But if you're thinking, I just give inspiration like water like that, right, then you will end up finding a lot of ways to give people. So one other thing they can think of is, do you give inspiration for trying, or do you give inspiration for succeeding? So let's say Mick is trying to jump across to do some parkour, right? So Mick jumps halfway and then he cannot sprint in the back because he never stretch, okay? So he falls down and then he died. So you give me inspiration at one time, say, Mick,
Of course you know lah, you died already what.
no, but you see, when you make death, Mick can roll, you can give inspiration, can re-roll, right? So maybe Mick doesn't die, right? So it's kind of like you're rewinding the scene. Or do you give him, Mick, you made it across, here's inspiration, thanks. So do you give them for trying, or do you give them for succeeding? If you give them for trying, right, it changes people become like, let's YOLO the fuck up, man. It's kind of, if you give them for succeeding, people become like, alright, we need to make this work. So your feel kind of changes. You're going for something more sword and sorcery, more pulpy, the latter. You're going for something more aspirational, minus of belief, power of friendship, the first one. Yeah. So it depends on the tone.
Yeah, I think one of the best things about 5th edition are the backgrounds, and using that and bringing that into the game, like Shao said, as a basis of inspiration is very good. The flaws, sometimes also playing according to the ideals, because all this place some constraints on the character, and playing with this helps the game overall, helps the narrative game overall.
And one last thing is the adventures, right? Storm King's Thunder, right? It actually gives you a character hook. So let's say you're a member of the Zentarim, and then so you're a secret mafia member. If you smuggle something and give it to X person, it says, give this character inspiration for following up on this lead. So you may also want to do, it's kind of like timing your drugs. So you can give them free and easy, you can give them time doses of inspiration. When they hit a certain area, they will release certain things. So if you do the two of this together, right, then you can hook them better along.
And on that point, like, inspiration is a very good, one very good carrot lah, to get your players to do what you want them to do. So for example, very specifically, I had a paladin who, under a zombie horde, went to go and save a bunch of people, even though he was about to die. And that's because he role played, and I want my table to role play a bit more. So because you do that, I'll give you inspiration, and that actually helps to trigger, your table to do certain activities that you want them to do. So I see that the table doesn't role play that much. Okay, and then I take advantage of this one person who does, and you reward that, and that's a signal to get them to follow suit lah. But yeah, you can give inspiration for anything.
One last hack you can do, not on your end but on the player side, is you can tell the players that inspiration is interchangeable. So let's say you got a guy who likes to roleplay the hell out of things, but another guy was kind of like eye attack. So it's kind of like, you don't want a guy who's eye attack to feel stressed out, like he's singled out for being unable to RP, right? So if the guy who RPs the paladin and then takes out a risk, he gets inspiration, right? He may give it to someone else. Once that happens, you create a stronger bond identity, then you'll start farming the whole inspiration and passing around, then the economy will take care of itself.
Cryptocurrency, you call inspiration.
Bitcoin, no inspiration.
Inspiration.co.
I have 40 servers just running inspiration like bring computation make it faster.
Yeah, it helps them cooperate and come together as a team. Oh, by the way, this is taken from Jack Chick as well. It was what they thought D&D sessions were like. Christian, right? Any questions? Other questions?
So maybe
Okay, if not, then I'll
we go for a break.
we'll go for a break and then Shao Han.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a 5-10 minute break.
Take a 5-minute break. When I'm ready, I'll tell you guys again.
Pop quiz.
Yeah, for those who need to smoke, drink, or whatever, stretch, sacrifice the dark lords.
Shut up and sit down.